Maybe it's not that you're bad with money. Maybe you just learned to play small. You work hard, do everything right, yet somehow, it never feels like enough. And deep down, a quiet voice keeps asking, why does success feel like something that happens to other people? Because the real struggle isn't in your bank account, it's in your beliefs. The invisible rules you absorbed long before you started earning are still running the show. Hey, book lovers. Welcome to BOOKZEAL. In the Millionaire Mindset by Gerry Robert, this truth hits like a mirror. Wealth doesn't start when money comes in. It starts when doubt moves out. By the end of this video, you won't just think differently about money. You'll feel differently about yourself. So, let's begin. Chapter 1. Reset the way you think about wealth. It's strange, isn't it? How two people can start from almost the same place, same city, same schools, same economy, and yet end up living completely different financial lives. One builds a future that feels wide and full. The other keeps circling the same ground, paycheck after paycheck, like a bird too afraid to lift off. The difference isn't luck. It's not even timing. It's mindset. The invisible architecture of belief that shapes what you think is possible for you. Most people think wealth begins with money, but the truth is, it begins much earlier, with what you believe about it. If you grew up hearing that money is hard to make, that rich people are selfish, that it takes luck or connections to make it, you probably learned to survive, not to create. And surviving has its own rhythm, predictable, exhausting, safe. But wealth, real wealth, isn't born from safety. It's born from expansion. You can't build something bigger than your belief in what's possible. There's a moment that happens for every person who eventually becomes successful. It's not dramatic. There's no music swelling in the background. It's just this quiet click when they stop asking, "Can I?" and start asking, "How will I?" I remember a friend, Daniel. He used to deliver packages for a courier company. Every morning he'd complain about gas prices, the manager, the schedule. His dream was to open his own small logistics business, but he'd say, "Man, you need big money to start something like that." Then one day, he told me he'd met a customer who'd started his own fleet with just one used van. "If he can do it, why can't I?" Daniel said, almost laughing at his own words. That was the click. 6 years later, he owns 6 vans. Not because he suddenly discovered business magic, but because his question changed. Once the mind opens, the world rearranges itself to fit. We talk so much about opportunity, but rarely about permission. Most people never give themselves permission to succeed. They feel guilty for wanting more. They tell themselves, "I should just be grateful." But gratitude and growth are not enemies. You can love your life and still want more from it. It's a funny thing. When you start believing abundance is normal, your actions start matching that belief. You make bolder moves, speak differently, see connections where others see walls. And it's not arrogance, it's awareness. Money flows where confidence lives. But mindset isn't a switch you flip once. It's a muscle you train. And that means catching the small, silent thoughts that whisper limitations into your day. The ones that say, "People like me don't earn that much," or "That kind of success just isn't my thing." Every time you believe those words, you build a ceiling over your life. And the scariest part? That ceiling feels natural. So here's the invitation. Stop arguing for your limitations. Start noticing where your thinking ends and where it could expand just 1 inch more. Because here's what happens when it does. The risk that once terrified you becomes interesting. The work that once felt heavy starts to feel purposeful. And the people who once intimidated you become mirrors, showing you how far you've already come. It's easy to think money changes people, but more often, it just reveals who they already were beneath scarcity. When you stop measuring yourself by what you have and start measuring by how you think, something inside settles. You stop chasing validation. You start building direction. Every self-made millionaire began with a decision. Not to be rich, but to think richly. To see money not as an end, but as a tool for creation, for generosity, for freedom. That's the real reset. To stop seeing wealth as something out there, something the lucky ones get, and start seeing it as something that begins quietly in here, in how you think, how you speak to yourself, how you treat small opportunities before they become big ones. Daniel still drives his van sometimes. He says it reminds him of where he came from, but when he looks at that old steering wheel, he doesn't see struggle anymore. He sees the moment he stopped waiting for permission. That's when wealth began for him. Not when the first check cleared, but when his thoughts did. Chapter 2. Discipline that feels like power. People love to talk about motivation, that rush of energy you feel after a podcast or a quote or some viral speech. But have you noticed how quickly it fades? One bad day, one missed call, one extra hour of sleep, and it's gone. Discipline, though. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It just shows up. It's the quiet force that gets you moving even when your mood doesn't cooperate. And somewhere along the way, you realize it's not punishment, it's power. There's this small, invisible victory that happens every time you keep a promise to yourself. Wake up when you said you would. Send that email you've been avoiding. Save that extra $50 instead of spending it on something forgettable. Each small act says to your mind, you can trust me. And trust, that's the real foundation of confidence. Not the loud, performative kind. The quiet kind. The kind that says, I'll do what I said I'd do, even when no one's watching. That's how wealth is built. Not through grand moments of genius, but through small, consistent decisions that compound over time. The world celebrates outcomes. Discipline celebrates process. You see, most people think freedom means doing whatever you want. But the truth, freedom is the ability to make yourself do what's needed and still feel at peace. When your time, money, and habits are aligned, life doesn't feel like chaos anymore. It starts to feel designed. There was a woman I once met at a financial seminar. Her name was Erica. She wasn't a CEO or investor. She was a nurse. She told me she decided to treat every dollar like an employee. Each one had a job: pay a bill, grow in savings, invest, give, or enjoy. If a dollar didn't have a job, it became lazy. And lazy money always disappears. That mindset changed everything for her. She automated her savings, paid off her debts, started investing small amounts each month. 3 years later, her net worth had doubled. Not because she made more, but because she mastered her behavior. Discipline is not about restriction. It's about direction. The same energy that drains you when scattered will drive you when focused. But here's the catch. Discipline only works when it feels connected to something meaningful. You can't force yourself into habits that have no emotional reward. The brain resists anything that feels like control. So don't chase perfect routines. Build honest ones. Ones that make sense for your rhythm, your season, your values. If you're building wealth, start with your calendar, not your bank account. Time is your first currency. How you spend it determines how every other resource multiplies. Protect it like capital. Invest it in things that grow you. Spend it consciously. Every morning before you open your phone, you're already making financial decisions, attention decisions. What you focus on compounds, what you ignore decays. And maybe that's why most people stay stuck. Not because they lack ambition, but because they leak focus. So, start with one promise. Something small. Maybe it's saving a fixed amount each week. Maybe it's reading 10 pages a night. Maybe it's simply refusing to negotiate with your alarm clock. Keep that promise long enough, and something magical happens. You stop needing motivation. You become it. Your self-respect rises quietly, like interest in an account you finally stopped ignoring. When discipline becomes identity, success stops feeling like effort. You don't wake up and ask, "Will I be productive today?" You just are. You move through your day with calm efficiency, the way a well-trained athlete doesn't need to psych themselves up for practice. They just lace up and show up. The truth is, discipline isn't about control. It's about self-respect. It's a way of saying, I trust my future self enough to protect them today. And that's a rare kind of power. The kind that no market crash, no job loss, no bad week can take away. Because it's not something you have. It's something you are. Chapter 3. Aim with precision. Steward with clarity. There's a moment most people hit, somewhere between ambition and exhaustion, when they realize they've been busy, but not directed. The days are full, but not fruitful. The hustle is loud, but somehow the progress is quiet. That's what happens when your aim is blurry. You can't hit what you can't see. Money loves direction. It doesn't grow for the distracted, it grows for the deliberate. And the more specific your goals become, the calmer your decisions feel. Vague goals invite chaos, but when you define what you truly want, not in abstract words like success or freedom, but in numbers, dates, and feelings, your mind finally relaxes. It knows where to go. I remember talking to a guy named Marcus once. He'd been working 2 jobs for almost 7 years, trying to get ahead. But when I asked him what ahead meant, he couldn't answer. He said, I just want to feel secure. So I asked, secure looks like what exactly? He paused. Then we did the math together. His monthly costs, his savings goal, the kind of buffer that would let him breathe. Turned out the number wasn't as big as he'd imagined. Once he saw it, he started acting differently. Not because he'd found motivation, because he'd found clarity. That's the strange thing about precision. It doesn't make life rigid. It makes it lighter. You stop spending energy on indecision. Every decision becomes obvious when your destination is clear. That's true with goals, and it's even truer with money itself. Most people treat money like fog. Mysterious, unpredictable, out of their control. But wealth only feels complicated when you avoid looking at it closely. Once you start tracking it, where it comes from, where it leaks, how it behaves, you realize it's just feedback. It's telling you the truth about your habits. Clarity replaces anxiety with agency. When you know your numbers, you can design your life with intention. You stop saying, I hope it works out, and start saying, I'm making it work. There's a power in stewardship, in caring for your resources like a gardener, not a gambler. Gardeners don't control the weather, but they know how to prepare the soil, protect the seeds, and nurture what grows. The same goes for money. You can't control the market, but you can control your system. Simple, grounded habits. Budgeting, tracking cash flow, reviewing weekly. They're not boring, they're liberating. Because order brings peace. You start realizing that freedom isn't random. It's structured. There's something calming about opening your finances and knowing exactly where every dollar is supposed to go. You stop reacting and start leading. You move from hoping to planning. And that small shift changes everything. Of course, structure doesn't mean perfection. Sometimes you'll slip, spend impulsively, miss a goal, delay a payment. But even then, awareness protects you. The point isn't to never make mistakes. It's to never go blind again. Money flows to people who respect it. Not idolize it, respect it. And respect looks like stewardship. Think of clarity as emotional insurance. It keeps your mind steady when circumstances shake. You stop flinching at bills or fearing downturns because you've built visibility into your life. And visibility gives power. Funny how people chase control but avoid clarity, not realizing they're the same thing. When you define your goals, when you measure your progress, when you handle your money like a leader instead of a victim, something shifts inside. You stop asking, why can't I get ahead? And start asking, what do I want to build next? Marcus, that same guy who used to say he just wanted to feel secure, now keeps a small whiteboard above his desk. It's not fancy, just 3 numbers. Income goal, investment target, freedom fund. He updates it every week. And he says every time he wipes that board clean and writes again, it feels like his life is in motion. Clear, alive, intentional. That's what clarity does. It doesn't just help you earn more, it helps you live better. Chapter 4. Multiply opportunity and social advantage. It's easy to think success is a solo act. One person, one grind, one vision. But the truth is quieter and deeper. No one builds wealth alone. Every thriving person you admire is standing on a web of relationships, partnerships, and mutual momentum. Money grows faster in community than in isolation. The right people don't just support your goals, they sharpen them. There's something magnetic about being around ambition that feels alive. It doesn't have to be loud or showy, just real. You feel it when someone speaks about ideas instead of gossip, when they're building something, even small, with sincerity. That kind of energy pulls you upward, and yet, most people stay surrounded by sameness. Same complaints, same fears, same limited expectations. They don't realize proximity is power. You can inherit belief just by being around it long enough. There's a story about a man named Paul who worked in a small accounting firm. He was smart, diligent, the kind of guy everyone trusted, but he played small. He'd convinced himself that people who built businesses were different. Then, by chance, he joined a local entrepreneur meetup. Just an ordinary Tuesday night. 10 people sitting around sharing progress and problems. He didn't say much that night. He mostly listened. But when he walked out, he told me later, it felt like something inside him had been rearranged. He said, it's not that they were smarter. They just spoke about possibilities like they were normal. That's how it begins. You borrow belief until you start creating your own. Wealth multiplies when perspective expands. And that expansion happens faster through others, through mentors, collaborators, even competitors who make you raise your game. But multiplying opportunity isn't just about who you know. It's also about how you think about income itself. Most people treat their job like their lifeline. One stream, one check, one source. But that's not security. That's fragility dressed up as stability. Real security is having more than one door open. Every new income stream doesn't have to be huge. Maybe it's consulting, maybe a small online product, maybe real estate, maybe dividends. The goal isn't volume, it's diversity. Because when one stream slows, another carries the flow. That's how wealthy people think. Not in terms of more, but in terms of many. They build systems that feed systems. One income funds another, one skill unlocks the next, one relationship opens 3 more. And in all of it, integrity matters more than tactics. Because money moves through trust. You can have the best product, the cleverest strategy, the perfect pitch. But if people don't trust you, they'll never buy your story. Selling isn't manipulation. It's communication. It's the art of helping people see the value that already exists. Clearly, honestly, without pressure. A good salesperson doesn't close. They connect. They make others feel safe to say yes. And that skill, being able to communicate value with calm conviction, will multiply your opportunities more than any marketing trick ever could. Here's the irony. The more you focus on giving value, the easier it becomes to receive it. When people feel seen, understood, and helped, they want to return that energy, sometimes through loyalty, sometimes through referrals, sometimes through money. The wealthiest people I know never lead with what they can get. They lead with what they can create. And somewhere in that generosity, the doors keep opening. Paul, that accountant, eventually started advising small businesses on finances part-time. Then one client turned into 3, then 6. Now, he runs his own consultancy. He says he didn't find opportunity. He simply multiplied the ones he already had. That's the secret most never realize. You don't need to chase bigger chances. You just need to deepen the ones right in front of you and surround yourself with people who remind you that growth isn't greedy, it's generous. Because when you multiply opportunity with integrity and community, wealth stops being a competition. It becomes collaboration. Chapter 5. Daily Declarations. Real-world Scaling. There's a quiet moment in every day, somewhere between waking and working, when your mind is wide open before the world starts pulling at it. That's the space where new stories can begin. Most people fill that space with noise, emails, scrolling, worry. But those who grow fast and grow well fill it with direction. Not the big kind, not 10-year plans, just small, repeated truths that align the mind before the day begins. That's what declarations are. They're not magical words, they're reminders of identity. They don't change reality overnight. They change the one who meets reality. I make calm, confident decisions with money. I attract opportunity because I keep my promises. I create value every day, and I'm proud of it. Simple lines, but said daily, they rewire something deep. Because the brain listens, it memorizes patterns. And the more you speak from possibility instead of fear, the more your actions start echoing that tone. Discipline builds the structure of success. Declarations give it spirit. Without that inner practice, growth feels mechanical, like running uphill with no breath. With it, momentum feels lighter. You don't need to hype yourself up anymore. You just remember who you are. But self-belief alone isn't enough. Declarations open the door. Systems keep it open. Scaling your life, your income, your impact. It's not about doing more. It's about doing what matters on repeat. Automate what drains you, delegate what distracts you, keep what energizes you. You don't need to triple your effort, just double your clarity. Think of progress like a flywheel. Slow at first, then unstoppable. Each small routine, tracking finances, reviewing goals, reaching out to your network, adds one more push. And one day, the wheel spins on its own. That's the real reward of growth. Not the number in your account, but the calm behind it. You start sleeping better. You stop chasing every new trend. You begin trusting the rhythm you've built. Because success isn't found in massive leaps. It's found in daily repetition that eventually looks like grace. But even grace takes practice. When you build habits around reflection, generosity, and clarity, you create wealth that outlives the season. The kind that compounds quietly in relationships, reputation, and peace of mind. And that's the rhythm you want to protect. Learn, compound, build. Not in rush, not in reaction, but in rhythm. Some mornings, you'll wake up and doubt it all. The plans, the routines, the progress. That's fine. Doubt is just an echo of your old identity asking for attention. Smile at it and keep moving. The truth is, real wealth has very little to do with money. It's how you feel when you look at the life you've built and realize it finally makes sense. You've reset the way you think. You've built discipline that lasts. You've aimed with clarity. You've multiplied opportunity. And now you're living in alignment with it all. One quiet, powerful day at a time. That's what a millionaire mindset really is. Not an ego, not a title, just a way of thinking that refuses to shrink. Pause for a second. Think about where you are right now. The habits you've built, the people around you, the thoughts you repeat every morning. Which of those things are helping you rise, and which are still holding you small? Leave a thought below, not for me, but for yourself. Sometimes writing it out is how change begins. And if this summary feels like something you'd want to keep close, stay around. There are more conversations waiting, more truths to uncover, more ways to grow quietly, steadily, and well. Take a breath. This is how it starts. Again, tomorrow.